Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So we have been talking with a lot of product managers, and today's podcast is going to be more interesting because I have Rakshit who is currently working as a product manager at ETMoney, and we are going to discuss more on building products in fintech because previously he has been working at Indmoney and before that he was working at LearnApp, which is also into fintech education. So this podcast is going to be really interesting. Thanks a lot, Rakshit, for coming here. If you can give a quick introduction to audience, it will be helpful.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Manoj, for bringing me in. So I'll just give a background. I started working when I was, I think, 18 or 19 at this startup called LearnApp. It was very, very, very small. I was in, I think, second year of college. And out of curiosity, I just checked out this website and realized that this is solving like a pretty big problem, which is of financial education. And I decided that, I'm anyways not doing anything. So why not just try and join the startup? Cold emailed the CEO of the company and eventually after some hiccups joined it. So I've basically worked as a customer success executive. I've worked in marketing. I worked in all of these areas. And after about 2 years in that startup, I realized that, look, all of these areas, fun to work at, but I really want to do impactful things and I want to be close to the customer and build things for the customer. So, and at that point in time, my thought process was that I need to be a financial education. So I realized that financial education per se से कुछ impact नहीं आएगा because it doesn't solve the problem end to end. So you need to be near the customer where he's actually transacting. और वहाँ पर if you can build products which help the customers better invest, better take decisions, it'll essentially help them. So decided to leave LearnApp at that point in time and decided to go to pretty fast growing startup, which is Indmoney. Worked there for 2 years, built out their financial planning module, built out some parts of insurance, and eventually moved to ETMoney, which is more focused on advisory per se. And I've basically built distribution products over there, built fixed income products, credit products, insurance. Like think of anything in fintech, and I've basically built that or sort of been involved in that project. So yeah, that's about me.
Interesting. And by the way, I'm also a user of both the apps, like
Okay, great,
Indmoney as
man.
well as ETMoney. I think I really
Great.
like the dashboard feature of which tracks
Yeah,
all your network
yeah, correct. Yeah,
at one
yeah.
place. I think the another thing you told, being close to customers. And so the first question I want to ask is like you have worked at different companies, different products, maybe different user personas too.
Huh.
So what are the 5 key lessons you learned as a product manager in your experience?
Yeah, man. So I've made a bunch of mistakes in the last 4 years, 4 or 5 years, while I'm working specifically on product. And I think my first product, which was a financial planning tool, goals tool, which we essentially built for almost 1.5 years, and we couldn't really find product market fit in that product. So I think the reason for getting close to the customer and really building something for the customers is what I experienced during those 1.5 years where we were building random shit which wasn't useful to customers. So I think the number one lesson that I've learned over the last 3-4 years is really understanding ki yaar, who is your user, how many times does he actually use your product, and why would a user use you over anything else? Why would he trust you? So being close to the customer and understanding the pain points of the customers is like the number one priority for me, at least as I'm building more and more products, to really understand कि यार user can at this point in time while he's using the product क्या चल रहा है. And the thing is that another lesson that I've learned as a product manager is the fact that we can deep dive into data, and everyone should deep dive into data. But in reality, quantitative metrics, they will tell you कि हाँ यार a drop है, but वो drop क्यों is what talking to your customers will essentially get you to. So data can only point you towards that direction, but you'll actually have to talk to users and really understand their pain points to actually build valuable features for them. Otherwise, you'll just be like, यार मेरे को ये वाला drop कब. So you'll build all those dark UX patterns, you will do dumb shit, but that won't move the needle.
I think the thing you told, the data thing, that's 100% true because let's say the drop just says what is happening, but why is it happening? You'll get it after talking to
Yeah,
users.
absolutely, man. And I've faced this multiple times in my journey where I was over optimizing for getting that step to increased. Because as product managers, when you're explaining things to, let's say, your CEO or to anyone, everyone's like, यार मेरे को इस ये ड्रॉप कम करना है so that my end conversion looks good, ठीक है. But point is कि वो end conversion उस ड्रॉप की वजह से नहीं हो रहा है. There's fundamentally some other thing which is happening behind your product which you need to understand. That मतलब that is like super important. So I'll give you an example if that's okay.
Yeah.
So while building a goal planning feature at one of my previous companies, the idea was to basically give a user a picture that without INDmoney's advice, this is what his life goal would look like, and with INDmoney's advice, what his life goal would look like. And the user had to basically consent at one step, which was essentially saying कि यार you need to accept all the plan or the entire plan that we are building for you, and then you need to essentially go and and then we'll give you actionable items that you can essentially do. ठीक. तो we built that feature, ठीक है. Initially traction मिला उसे. We got a lot of people coming in, jumping through the paywall, but not a lot of people actually accepting the plan and then going on to solve that particular problem in their financial life that we had detected. So a very dumb thing that we did was कि यार ये जो plan acceptance वाला step है ये हटा ही देते हैं. Why do I need to accept the plan? And what we did was that we removed that step, but that did not bring any kind of impact on the end metric point of view, which was basically कि retain हो रहे हैं at the end of that particular period, because it's a subscription product. वो फंडामेंटली मतलब वो जो प्लान हमें बनाना था वही हम लोग नहीं बना पाए, एंड वी weren't able to service the user with a good quality financial plan. ठीक है. अगर वो हम करते, probably we wouldn't have to optimize for that one step ka conversion.
Understood. I think financial planning is more complex. There are a lot of other factors.
Very
personal
complex.
factors.
It's very complex. Yeah, very complex.
Got it. I think the next question I have is, so let's say, I think especially when you're building products in fintech, it's not similar to how you build products in other industries. There are a couple of things that one should keep in mind. So what are the key things you see that are different when you're building products in fintech space?
I can give you a comparison with the edtech industry where I was building products for financial education. So I think a difference between an education or any other industry versus a transacting जहाँ पर user अपना पैसा देकर they're investing in your platform. The fundamental difference is that the expectation is a lot different. यहाँ पे you are taking a decision which will not impact your life today, but it will impact your life after maybe 5-6 years, 10 years, ठीक है. Versus any other industry within, let's say, 1.5, 2 months, 3 months, a year, the result, even if you, let's say, go to shadi.com, ठीक है, shadi.com में you buy their subscription, तो hopefully in a year you will get your whatever marriage proposal or whatever it is, ठीक है. फिनटेक में अगर मैं आज एक इंश्योरेंस प्रोडक्ट ले रहा हूँ, ठीक है, को 5 साल बाद होगा तब मेरे को वो अप्लाई करना पड़ेगा इंश्योरेंस के लिए. एट दैट पॉइंट इन टाइम विल आई गेट इंश्योरेंस और नॉट, वो आज के डिसीजन के ऊपर. सिमिलरली लेट्स से आई इन्वेस्ट इन अ म्यूचुअल फंड, ठीक है, और आई इन्वेस्ट इन अ स्टॉक. अनलेस यू आर अ डे ट्रेडर, व्हिच मोस्ट ऑफ द पीपल आरंट, वी आर फोकसिंग ऑन इन्वेस्टर्स ओवर हियर. अगर आप एक इन्वेस्टर हो और आप एक फाइनेंशियल प्लान के लिए इन्वेस्ट का, फिर यू आर इन्वेस्टिंग इन अ म्यूचुअल फंड, ठीक है, द डिसीजन ऑफ वेदर यू मेड द चॉइस और नॉट ऑब्जेक्टिवली विल टेक 10 years. 10 साल आपने मार्केट से या नीचे कमाया, दिन पे वॉलिटिलिटी होती रहेगी, ठीक है, बट अल्टीमेटली द डिसीजन जो तुम पैसा डाल रहे हो एसआईपी में, जैसे मैं जितनी की भी एसआईपी आज कर रहा हूं, इट टेक्स टाइम फॉर वेल्थ टू बिल्ड. और जो डिसीजन है, डिसीजन फ्रेमवर्क है, दैट सो फंडामेंटली 2 different प्रोडक्ट्स एंड फंडामेंटली रिक्वायर्स डिफरेंट थिंकिंग्स. तो प्रॉब्ली आप जो है डार्क पैटर्न्स यूज करके दूसरे सारे प्रोडक्ट्स में यू इंक्रीज योर सब्सक्रिप्शन फनल एंड ऑल ऑफ दोस थिंग्स, बट अल्टीमेटली मतलब अगर प्रोडक्ट अच्छा नहीं है, लेट्स से सब्सक्रिप्शन और एनी ट्रांजैक्टिंग प्रोडक्ट, रिटेंशन नहीं है. या सो फॉर एग्जांपल आपने shadi.com में लेट्स से यू बॉट अ सब्सक्रिप्शन, या नो ब्रोकर में यू बॉट अ सब्सक्रिप्शन, क्या मिला, ठीक है, आप 2 महीना 3 महीना वेट कर, अगर नहीं मिल रहा, यू आर नेवर गोइंग बैक टू नो ब्रोकर. ठीक है, 2-3 महीना, एक साल बाद अगर आप shadi.com इज नॉट एबल टू सॉल्व दैट पेन पॉइंट, यू आर नेवर गोइंग बैक टू shadi.com बिकॉज यू आर लाइक व्हाट शिट इज दिस. फिनटेक में फंडामेंटली एज आई सेड द डिफरेंस इज कि यूजर, बिकॉज इट्स अ वेरी लॉन्ग टर्म डिसीजन, तो आज की वॉलिटिलिटी, लेट्स से यू आर इन्वेस्टिंग इन स्टॉक्स, आज अगर आप नीचे, ठीक है, या आपने गलत डिसीजन लिया जिसकी वजह से यू सॉ लाइक अ ह्यूज ड्रॉप बिकॉज ऑफ वॉलिटिलिटी इन मार्केट्स, ठीक है, सो यू विल बी लाइक यार ये प्लेटफॉर्म, आई कांट ट्रस्ट दिस प्लेटफॉर्म, या फिर मैं स्टॉक्स में इन्वेस्ट नहीं करूंगा. तो यहाँ पे क्या हो ना दैट यू नीड टू इसेंशली टेल द यूजर कि यार कोई नहीं तू रुक जा, देयर इज अ लॉट ऑफ ओवर कम्युनिकेशन दैट नीड्स टू बी डन इन मैटर्स ऑफ मनी. तो जैसे गारंटीड इनकम का एक प्रोडक्ट है विच वी जस्ट रिलीज अ कपल ऑफ मंथ्स बैक. इट्स डूइंग प्रीटी वेल, बट द पॉइंट इज कि इट्स सच अ लॉन्ग कमिटमेंट that we can't optimize for getting more and more people into the funnel and buy that product because पैसा ही नहीं होगा, ठीक है, to pay it off after 6 months. We don't want those kinds of users. So that's why if you see our flow, you will realize there's a lot of over communication that we have done. These are the good things about this plan, these are the bad things, तुम्हें ये करना पड़ेगा. So lot of complexities come into this part of business.
Got it. I think there's not a lot of instant gratification, right? I think there's no.
Yeah.
So let's say Amazon, I order a product, I get it in a day or so. I'll get it next day. But SIP का I don't know.
यार एक्सेप्ट फॉर प्रॉब्ली पर्सनल लोन्स पर आपको इंस्टेंटली पैसा मिल जाता है. देयर इज नो अदर प्रोडक्ट इन फिनटेक जहां से आपको इंस्टेंट ग्रेटिफिकेशन मिल सकता है. एनीवन हु इज ट्राइंग टू सेल यू लेट्स से कि यार मैं 10 दिन में तुम्हारा पैसा डबल का, ऑल ऑफ दोस थिंग्स, दैट्स मतलब वो काफी खराब चीज है यूजर के लिए एंड दैट्स बुलशिट बिकॉज ऑल ऑफ अस नो दैट्स नॉट पॉसिबल. इधर भी ये सारी इंस्टेंट ग्रेटिफिकेशन आप लेकर आ सकते हो, बट यूजर एक्सपेक्टेशन जो है ना वो मैनेज करना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट होता है बिकॉज इट्स अ लॉन्ग टर्म.
I think I've also seen the common thing, I think just to summarize what you told, educating the user about good and bad things and communicating a lot about anything that's going to happen, like instead of overwhelming them. And third is like having a lot of trust factor.
Yeah. It's a trust business.
And the next thing is, so let's say now fintech, many people want to get into this industry. If there's a product manager who's already working at a different company or a different industry and want to get into fintech, how he or she can learn about fintech specific knowledge. So let's say, just to give you an example, they need to understand how basically the banking system works, how the money is transferred, how UPI works, how credit works, etc. From where they can learn, how they can learn.
यार I fundamentally believe that किताबी knowledge से तो बात नहीं बनी. So you need to be in that space if you want to really learn about it. I firmly believe that. So I won't suggest any books of any sort, to be very frank and to be very honest to your audience. I feel that it's better if at this point in time, if you want to get into fintech, is that if you have some work experience and you know how these industries work in terms of, you can have any kind of an edge. So let's say you are working as a customer success executive at a broker type या ऐसे कुछ, तो even you, because you know that industry, you know the nuances of that industry, you can be a product manager if you really want to do that. तो आपके पास एक competitive edge होना चाहिए, which usually in this case is कि यार आपको क्या stocks की बात है. If you want to let's say get into wealth management, do you know about stocks, do you know basic compliance पर कि कैसे, what are the do's, what are the don'ts, basics. If you know basics, so I think you can get into it, and to be very honest, it's not rocket science. So even if you don't have that background, if you have, as I said, यहाँ पर basic principles is user empathy, over communication, understanding user pain points, these are first principles in product management. If you know this, I think anyone can get into fintech, into any fintech.
Got it. Yeah, I think the next thing is like, let's say the another common thing that generally product managers or product manager career in general, the problem has is how can PMs thrive in their current role? How a PM can upskill themselves, right? Because all other careers have something set up. Like let's say if they are in development, they have new technologies to learn or different things to explore. Let's say if they're in front end, they'll explore back end, etc. But how should a product manager should upskill in their career according to you?
Yeah, I can speak about myself. So the way I try to upskill is I listen to, there's this podcast called Lenny's podcast. I don't know if you know about this or not, right?
Yeah.
So I listen to that. I read his newsletter. I'm subscribed to Ken, so I know Ken. And I think being a product manager is to be open to different things, different ideas. So I'm very curious ki, let's say, how is Zomato building their products? I don't know if you know this or not, but at least in Gurgaon, Delhi side, they've launched an AR feature, and where you can essentially आप अपना phone जो है point to your desk or something like that, और आप पिज्जा बन, ठीक है, and then you can zoom in and see कि हाँ यार इसके अंदर कितना पनीर डाल रहे हैं, कितना सब चीजें डाल रहे हैं, and all of those things. So very interesting feature. So I go into deep dive. I deep dive into कि यार ये क्यों बना रहे हो, just internal deep dive, to be very honest. And then obviously at office I have a good group in terms of design people, product manager. My managers are there. So we discuss about different things कि यार Dream 11 पैसा कैसे कमा रहे. So I think you just have to be involved in talk to different people, be involved in a community, and just be curious about it, to be very honest. That's the way to sort of upskill.
Got it. I think just to summarize, being curious, having discussion with people from different industry and also your team, and also trying to break down what are the new things that are coming in the market. And the next question is, let's say fintech is growing a lot. I think last time when I read in some news that only 3 to 4% of India was investing in the stock market. Like
2%.
I think it's a year.
Yeah, it would have increased to about 3-4% now post-COVID. Yeah.
So currently, so it's growing a lot. So even if 1% gets added, 1% of 140 crore is a very big thing. And many users are also coming in. So many competitors will also come into this industry. So how in general, how do we make faster and correct decisions in a high competitive industry like, let's say, fintech? Because even in stock broking, so there are a lot of new players. There's liquid stocks which came. There are also new players coming in with different USPs.
Yeah, I fundamentally believe, so there are three types of companies in fintech. So there are some companies which are marketing wrappers. Yeah, वो product खुद का नहीं है, they are just a distributor. That is Policy Bazaar. ठीक है, अगर मतलब fundamentally if you look at Policy Bazaar, they don't have their own product. Now they're getting into reinsurance. They've just got a reinsurer license and all of those things. But currently, अभी के हिसाब से Policy Bazaar is कि यार इससे इंटीग्रेट कर लिया, इस इंश्योरेंस से इंटीग्रेट कर लिया और आपको सब एक साथ चीजें दिखा दिया. टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, वाला जो गेम है, बड़े बड़े प्लेयर्स ऑलरेडी घुस चुके हैं इसके अंदर. ठीक है, इफ यू हैड आस्क्ड मी दिस क्वेश्चन अबाउट 2 years 3 years बैक, probably the answer would have been कि यार ये वाले प्लेयर्स जीतेंगे. ठीक है, who are aggregating everything. But now, as I get into, if someone's new getting into this industry, and if they have an option to either build or join a startup, what I would suggest is that ki yaar, go to a company which is fundamentally solving these problems from scratch. So I'll give you an example. I really love this company called Acco. Do you know about
Acco Insurance?
Yeah, it's an insurance company. It's not a distributor. ठीक है, वो प्रोडक्ट्स बना, दे सॉल्विंग द कस्टमर पेन पॉइंट्स फ्रॉम एंड टू एंड. सो फॉर एग्जांपल, अगर गाड़ी का इंश्योरेंस है तो फ्रॉम बाइंग एक्ो इंश्योरेंस, एक्ो कार इंश्योरेंस कि कितने प्राइस पे वो प्रोडक्ट बिकेगा, टू कि कस्टमर सर्विस कैसे हो, तुम्हारी गाड़ी, हाउ डज अ कस्टमर इंटरेक्ट विद एक्ो, पूरा उन्होंने एंड टू एंड बिल्ड किया है. एंड देयर बिल्डिंग अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स ऑन टॉप ऑफ दैट. बट माय ओवरऑल पॉइंट इज कि डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन से आई डोंट थिंक गाड़ी अब हिलेगी. ठीक है, you'll have to fundamentally build a product and build a good product and solve each and every pain point. Because distribution focused business में क्या होता है ना, let's say Policy Bazaar, अगर आज आप इंश्योरेंस लेते हो, first of all Policy Bazaar is the number one platform that everyone will go to. ठीक है, because they have this top of the mind recall. But the problem is that even अगर आज की डेट में मेरा क्लेम आता है, ठीक है, और इंश्योरर रिजेक्ट करता है, so Policy Bazaar can't do anything because it's just a middleman. So fundamentally, by being a distribution, you can't solve customer pain point because ultimately that product is being sold by someone else. Got it?
Correct.
तो अगर आपको अपने प्रोडक्ट में डिफरेंशिएशन लेकर आना होगा, ये मार्केटिंग पर से नहीं होगा. You will have to build your product from scratch, build a good product from scratch. And we have seen that happening with Acco, with Navi. All of these companies are like just building fantastic products, man.
Yeah. I think I saw Acco in a lot of travel insurance. When I used to book something via Redbus, I used to see Acco का coming there.
That's a B2B partnership thing ना. अब वो लोग कहीं से तो, so they're going to all of these. ओला के साथ भी उन्होंने पार्टनरशिप किया था. Uber. Point is कि जब आपका खुद का प्रोडक्ट है तब उसे कितना भी you can change it according to your users, the industry that you want to focus on and all of those things. ठीक है, बट अगर किसी और का प्रोडक्ट, उसमें आप customization, pricing कुछ आप में होता ही.
Correct. I think as we are talking about product, the next question is based on that only. You see, like if we jump 5-6 years or 10 years back, everything used to happen via calls or a human used to come and sell कि यार म्यूचुअल फंड में डालो. There were offline brokers. Paper were there. I think you cannot open a demat account without sending application.
Correct.
Yeah. But now things are changing a lot. There's no human involved. Even nowadays, insurance also very less. That also the bank calls. No product-led companies doesn't call. So how in general these companies are building trust and transparency, right, through product-led communication, where people are putting in their money immediately. And it's also like, as we already discussed, nothing gives instant gratification. Insurance, health insurance, SIPs. So how we are doing that?
Yeah, so it's a myth if people think that there is no human intervention in these startups. It's a big myth. Any company that you go to, any distribution focused company, ठीक है, उनका tech product no doubt अच्छा हो, जैसे at ETMoney, at Indmoney, good tech product, we've built all of those tech, but point is कि fundamentally users को एक level of assurance चाहिए, उन्हें एक लेवल ऑफ बंदे से बात करनी है, समझनी है चीजें, ठीक है, जो आप कभी भी इट कांट बी फुल्ली DIY. आई डोंट थिंक इट कैन बी फुल्ली DIY, टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट. देयर आर कंपनीज हु आर बेटिंग ऑन दैट, बट आई ऑनेस्टली डोंट थिंक कि वो, अगर आप फुल्ली DIY एक्सपीरियंस करते हो, DIY इज बेसिकली डू इट योरसेल्फ अप्रोच, ठीक. सो अगर आप फुल्ली DIY अप्रोच, तो यार मेरे को बिना सेल्स का मेरे को ये नंबर करने हैं, ठीक है, दैट आई थिंक इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट. आई एम नॉट सेइंग दैट इट्स नॉट कमिंग. म्यूचुअल फंड में विद ऑल ऑफ दीज फाइनेंस इन्फ्लुएंसर्स एवरीथिंग, एक लेवल ऑफ मेच्योरिटी, एक लेवल ऑफ अडॉप्शन आया, ठीक है, कि मैं चल इस म्यूचुअल फंड में 1,000 रुपए की SIP स्टार्ट कर सकता हूँ. लॉट ऑफ एजुकेशन इज देयर, ठीक है, बट स्टॉक्स में भी बहुत सारे यूट्यूबर्स है, एजुकेशन हुआ है, बट पॉइंट इज इंश्योरेंस हो गया, ठीक है. अब इंश्योरेंस में द प्रॉब्लम इज दैट इट्स अ वंस इन अ लाइफ डिसीजन. You don't want to buy 10 different insurance policies, which you might want to do in mutual funds. You might want to diversify into different mutual funds. Insurance में ऐसा नहीं होता है. Insurance के केस में you would want to talk to someone before making a decision. That's the fundamental nature, ना कि मतलब मैं सही decision ले रहा हूँ नहीं ले रहा. तो we just have to, I think, solve for that, यार. तो मतलब while we are building all those product communications, and the idea is to fully go 100% DIY, right? That's the ideal scenario. But I don't see it happening in the next 1 or 2 years, 3 years at least, because कुछ डिसीजन होते हैं जो फंडामेंटली समझना होता है लोग. So I don't think.
Got it. Cool. I think the next one is, so let's say, especially when you're building a wrapper, in most cases, there's not only one stakeholder, but there's also external stakeholder along with internal stakeholder. So if I'm selling insurance, or let's say P2P lending, there's a company which is doing P2P lending, and you are integrating with that company. So how to manage stakeholders, right, better when they are, let's say, multiple stakeholders, and especially in fintech, there are two stakeholders, external.
Yeah, I think there are multiple stakeholders, but I think fundamental thing that I've learned the hard way is that you just have to keep everyone in the same place, यार. मतलब और कुछ इसमें solution तो नहीं है. Obviously, internally there would be compliance, there would be business, there would be design, tech, all of those things. Compliance plays a little bit like a more important role over here than any other company. यहाँ पर I think fundamentally the thing is that you need to keep them in loop, ideally. And apart from that, coming to external stakeholders, I think externally there can be issues with respect to their tech, because a lot of these players are very old. They're not fully tech focused. So थोड़े issues हो सकते हैं. But as long as there is communication, there is understanding of how their system essentially works, things becomes easier, I think.
I think first thing is keeping everyone on the same page, and two is like understanding their system also, so we can integrate. So the next thing is, so let's say fintech is a very complex industry. When I'm building products at scale, let's say I have millions of users in apps, initially no one is going to come and ask, yeah, I have a need for insurance. So first you create awareness about the problem, then you sell the product. So how do you build products for users at scale? How do you take decision, yeah, next this is a feature I want to launch, this is a product we want to build and launch?
Yeah, I think fundamentally it has to come from number one, business. As we have seen over the last 2 years, money coming in is as important as getting more users, and if not more important than user happiness. So there can be a business reason, there can actually be a user issue, or overall level pe you feel that this is not working out, I may want to try out a different approach. So yeah, fundamentally there are these 2-3 different things which are happening. So I think keeping everyone in loop, really understanding your business goals, business decisions, कि यार मेरे को ये वाला revenue यहाँ से 2x लेकर है. Ultimately that can differ from company to company, or there is this pain point that users are facing, or there is a huge drop because of these XYZ reasons. There can be multiple facets to it. I don't have a playbook for that, for it to be very honest. But anything that comes from either of these 3-4 directions, you need to work on it, to be very honest. Yeah. Fundamentally, of course, fundamentals remain the same, that users incentive होना चाहिए, अच्छा चीज बनना चाहिए for the user. Or the second incentive can be, I want to build something that is beneficial for my business, that will help in growing whatever I'm doing. So I think
either business should get benefited, or user, or both. And the last question I have is, like, let's say, how can a PM work better with developers and designers? Because especially in this industry, if you see, you would have an insight, or you would be able to empathize better. Yeah, this is a problem. This is where the user is feeling bad or confused, right? So working, like transferring the vision, making them understand what is the goal, etc. So how can a PM work better with developers and
Yeah, I think with developers and designers, the playbook that I've cracked is कि यार over communication. Just communicate as much as you can. Just make things simple for them to understand. ठीक है कि यार ये problem है, ये solution है. And to essentially just share the results. The company which I was working in earlier, Indmoney. One day I remember Ashish coming to me. Ashish Kashyap, he's the CEO. He was like in a meeting कि यार why aren't you if अगर तेरे को कुछ प्रॉब्लम फेस हो रहा है तो बता ना, मेरे को बता, डेवलपर्स को बता, डिजाइनर्स को बता, मतलब शेयर योर प्रॉब्लम्स, फिगर आउट. तेरे को हर चीज खुद से नहीं फिगर आउट करना है. Your job is to obviously figure out whatever solution to a particular problem, but there is a team as well to share with them. उन्हें ये प्रॉब्लम फेस होती है, ये क्यों इंपॉर्टेंट है, और कम्युनिकेशन पे एंड फिर सोल्यूशन अल्टीमेटली निकल जाता है. तो दैट वाज अ वेरी इंसाइटफुल थिंग. लाइक बी वल्नरेबल इज माय पॉइंट. अल्टीमेटली शेयर डेटा, शेयर रिजल्ट्स, टेल देम व्हाट्स वर्किंग, व्हाट्स नॉट वर्किंग, and yeah, I think that has worked for me.
I think communicating and keeping them informed on. Yeah, I think you answered all the questions with real life examples and based on your experience. So I think before we close the podcast, do you want to say anything to the audience?
Yeah, well, yeah, don't take stuff too seriously, I guess. I mean, just enjoy, just have fun. And yeah, the biggest for a product manager, the biggest victory or the biggest high in life should be when people are using your product and saying good things about your product. So optimize for that.
Cool. Thanks a lot.
Cool.
Rakshit. Thanks everyone.
This was fun, Manoj. Thanks a lot for having me.